Well, it's
Yeah.
great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Likewise. Yeah, no, I'm happy to do it. This is always nice to have a
Yeah,
little conversation. Yeah.
absolutely. So let's begin our journey here before we get into your work by asking you, I know we're all getting tired of COVID. We're getting fatigued by talking about it, but it was such a big deal. How did you survive that time period and how did it affect the way that you live your life now?
So when COVID first broke out, I was actually living in Brooklyn and working for New York City Health and Hospitals. So very much felt on the front lines of care. Did 14-hour days, 6 to 7 days a week for a while there in late March through probably early May. Um, and, it was such a strange time in healthcare. There was like this wonderful celebration of healthcare workers, which was very cool to experience, to be like, to be in New York City and see people cheering and things like that at 7 p.m. at shift change. Um, but then also like each day was really heavy and like we've never seen that much death. Um, and there's a certain amount of like being in healthcare, you get used to like some of the limits of the human body, but it was just and it was hard to like you wouldn't didn't want to bring that home either. So like it was just heavier, the unknowns. I was at the time a director of food nutrition services, and so to keep my staff engaged and to feel safe and to give them as much transparent communication as I could, while still having a lot of unknowns about what was going on and what the next, three, you know, 3 days would look like, let alone the next 3 months. So yeah, it was just a strange time.
It was a very
Um,
strange time.
yeah, yeah. I don't know that I've carried it with me day in, day out, or week in, week out since. Sometimes every once in a while something like this comes up and like you sit back and reflect and think, oh my gosh, I can't believe that like we all went through that and experienced that.
Yeah.
And now having had that experience, like have this real sense of normalcy that's not interrupted day in, day out.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, definitely upon reflecting, I think it has gutted healthcare open in other ways that were very really helpful and important in terms of like enhancing access to telehealth services or maybe getting people a little bit more comfortable with the idea of engaging with their providers in a slightly different manner. Not to mention a lot of the like kind of learning opportunities and networking opportunities that have started to outcrop from a comfort with like everything online and virtual.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
if that answers,
That
but
did.
yeah,
That totally did. So let's get to the heart and soul of what you do on a daily basis here in 2024. I know things have changed.
sure.
If you were in front of a bunch of third graders at career day and one of the kids was like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
Um, I work with an education company that helps prepare, you know, medical and nursing students for the workforce.
Okay. So what did you want to be when you were in the third grade? What was your dream?
I wanted to be an anesthesiologist.
Okay.
Couldn't
Okay.
even spell the word, but one of a family friend was an anesthesiologist, and it just seemed like such a cool thing that they got to like be in the OR, but also not be the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Um,
yeah, I finally, for the first time in my life, I'm 52 now. I finally got went under, and when I went in the room, they're playing Pearl Jam's Jeremy, and I'm like, wait, hold on a second. I had no idea that this was going to be the scenario. It's such a weird feeling. Like I've heard about it. but it's just like I remember when I got ready to wake up, I was like, "Is it okay if I wake up? Is it everything good?" And it's just, I mean, you're out of your head, so, but
Right,
it's
right.
an interesting line. But they're just all in there, nonchalant. Pearl Jam's playing, they're hanging out. It's like no big deal. It's just, but
Yeah.
that's kind of the medical field. It's like we have this idea of how things are supposed to go, but they're just people and they're just at a job, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's a really good point. It's very true. I mean,
Yeah,
people get so it all becomes background when
yeah.
you're doing it every day.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's
So,
funny.
let me ask you this. How did we get
Yeah.
here? Take me back to where you were born and raised. Why did you
Yeah,
want to get into medicine? How did you evolve into this place that you are as a professional today?
yeah, yeah. So as I mentioned, I was always kind of interested in healthcare. I thought I wanted to go the like med school doctor route and then volunteered at a local hospital throughout high school. And when I was applying to colleges and whatnot, being 18 and the idea of being in school for the next like decade plus of my life and not really starting what seemed like real life, um, just it didn't it didn't feel like a decision I was like ready to make at the time. And so in my volunteer experience at the hospital, one year I got placed at a place called the Healthy Living Center, which was kind of like this glorified gym with physical therapists and occupational therapists. And there was a registered dietitian there that would work with the clients coming in and out, affiliated with the health system. And she was just like the happiest, most chipper person. And so it just kind of opened me up to like, oh, there's this whole career where you're kind of like in healthcare, but it's a little bit adjacent. It's a little bit of um, a, a really nice supportive like lifestyle path. And so I went to school. I went to Boston University for nutrition and studied nutrition there. Stayed through for their MSDI program, sat for the boards, was a registered dietitian, or still am. I shouldn't say was, but practiced as an RD in a few different practice settings, community health, community hospitals, multidisciplinary medical practices, and New York City health system, as I kind of mentioned. Um, was kind of growing there in clinical leadership and operations leadership, decided to go back and get my MBA and kind of shore up the business skills side of things because I found that I wasn't, totally in love with nutrition care as it gets provisioned within the, larger context of our healthcare system.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, a lot of our models and systems are not very geared towards preventive care. Even simple things like pre-diabetes not being a covered ICD-9 code, but like diabetes being covered. It's like, oh, okay, you're not like your insurance won't pay for you to talk to me until we actually have a bigger problem here,
yeah.
So, um, anyways, so yeah, so in all of this time, I was also starting to just like take on some projects outside of my 9 to 5 career because I was curious and interested in nutrition entrepreneurship and so I ended up co-founding a digital health company that focused on supportive cancer care services. So what I would usually say is the et cetera of cancer care that doesn't really happen well in visit. So like coordinating resources, understanding things like nutrition topics, even just like social, emotional journaling and support, or driving people towards better information for clinical trials, things like that. So we built out a supportive care platform. And in 2020, let's see, 2022, I think it was, I like made the leap to leave practicing full time to continue to work on the digital health company. We grew it to about 6,000 patients and then offloaded it. And uh, my co-founder in that business actually had another business, an education technology company, Archer Review, that was just absolutely starting to take off. And so, since, we had worked together so closely and had a lot of trust, he said, come help me operationalize this business and kind of make sure that we're getting the right team in place and have the right resources to handle this growth. And Archer Review has found a really nice foothold with particularly with nursing students, supporting them throughout their nursing career, but we're certainly launching more and more across the healthcare spectrum. And it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
There's a lot of feel good about like helping people get into healthcare careers and
Yeah.
helping to try to unburden some of these like staffing shortage issues and things like that are going on around the country.
Yeah. So, who's been kind of an inspiration or a hero for you in your work?
Ooh, good question.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, aside from the obvious kind of like personal heroes that I think most people kind of like gravitate towards first, like for example, my mom, I think a lot of people probably answer the question that way. But like I grew up in a household of single parent household, three kids, like saw her work her tail off to like make sure that we had food on the table. And I think like when you have that kind of experience and you see um like it just ingrains that hunger in you early on to be able to like tr- just strive for bettering yourself and your family and making sure that you're kind of doing things that are of the right value system and things like that. So I think that is kind of like the very clear, obvious personal choice for me in terms of a hero. There's certainly been people along the way in my career that I don't know, almost like monkey bars, like you kind of like hold on to like this one person that you're really inspired by and like is doing something really interesting at this one point in your career. And then as you grow as a professional, like you kind of find another person that you're like, oh, that's so cool. I'm really intrigued by how they tackle X problem. So I don't know. I think that answer probably changes every few years as
Sure.
you grow. But yeah, there's certainly been people like throughout my work life experience that are much more tangible to me that I'm just really impressed by, and that I've been lucky to learn from.
So, let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into the 18-year-old version of you. You could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've led, the wisdom you've accumulated along the way. What advice would
Yeah.
you impart on that young version of you?
Oh my gosh. You know what? I don't know that I would give any.
Okay, that's a good answer.
Yeah, I've made a ton of mistakes and like to sidestep those would be awesome. And like I would love for that 18-year-old version to like get here faster
Yeah,
and without like, ups and downs and heartache and things like that. Um, but I just don't know that you'd be the same person and that
sure.
you'd make the same decisions and that you'd have some of the same outcomes. So like I would just say like have fun, enjoy the ride, trust your gut, and you know, I don't know that I would get too deep. I certainly certainly have a lot of tactical things that I could, give them, but
Sure.
I don't know that I would.
That's great. In all of the interviews that I've done, I've never heard anybody that's just resolute, like I'm good, everything's good. I mean, the people have hinted on it, so it's great. It's so good because I totally agree. I think everything that we do, it's kind of the true entrepreneurial mindset. You learn more from failing sometimes than you do from success, and if you
Yeah.
don't have those life experiences, how are you going to learn and get to a more evolved place in your existence?
Yeah. Yeah, no, certainly. I mean, I've had all of the traditional mistakes of, from who to trust, navigating who to trust. I think that's probably like one of the bigger ones is like
Yeah.
figuring people out.
Hmm.
Um, but to like smaller things that are timing based to, like what education or resources to get in what order. But like, yeah, I don't I don't know that I wouldn't want my 18-year-old self to have all of those answers.
Yeah. So, of everything that you've done up to this point in your life, what are you the proudest of?
Um, Professionally,
Probably overall. I mean, all of it kind of blends together.
yeah. I mean, personally, I'm probably most proud of the fact that I really feel rooted in a balanced life, like while accomplishing a lot of things professionally. You know, I I have a son that's 3 with a baby on the way, and we like I get to cook almost every night of the week. Like we do all the small things that are huge, right? Like going for family walks and playing in the backyard and things like that. So that's probably what I'm most proud of is just the fact that like I can feel really secure and accomplished in my career, but at the same time, that doesn't define me in my friendships or in my family life.
Sure.
Um, and in fact, we'll go months like spending time with people where it's the conversation is not centered around anything career,
Yeah.
um, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, for sure. So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, everyone that you work with, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
That's a good question. I mean, I think I have this vision of myself being very pragmatic. I've always kind of been very like a balanced thinker, somebody who's almost a little bit like Swedish in the sense of like, all right, let's take a step back, let's evaluate, let's understand, let's be pragmatic, let's move forward, let's control what we can control, make decisions based on that. So I think I have this sense of myself of being fairly steady-handed. Um, so yeah, I mean, I guess that would be probably one of the like core things that I think about myself.
Yeah.
I also just think I'm like kind of playful and silly, and I like to kind of lead with a quietness in the sense that like really elevates the team around me. Like I don't need the accolades. I just want to be asking really critical questions that we all need to be thinking about. Um, I'm never the person that considers themselves the smartest one in the room. I think I'm just halfway decent at connecting various concepts and thoughts and kind of like pulling them together into something actionable.
So if anyone wants to reach out, Whitney, to you, learn more about Archer Review, anything that's in your world, the good business, where's the best place to go?
Oh, yeah, sure. So if they want to check out anything Archer Review, you can go to archerreview.com, ArcherReview. We also have, we're on like Instagram and TikTok and things like that. The handle at Archer Nursing. And personally, I am on LinkedIn. My name is Whitney Isola, so Whitney Isola. Feel free to find me and connect with me and reach out. I, I'm decently active on LinkedIn. I find it a lot of fun to see what other people are up to, and I never mind having a conversation to help support somebody, earlier on in their career or maybe trying to crack a problem that they're having. So, yeah, don't be shy.
Wonderful. Whitney, this has been great. Thank you so much for being patient in the beginning. Best of luck
Yeah,
with everything. I appreciate it.
y- thank you so much. Yeah,
Thank you.
this was
Great.
wonderful.
Yes,
Have a great
absolutely.
day.
You too. Take
Thanks.
care.